So let's start our discussion about building databases with a look at the 10 big mistakes in database development. Let's start with a couple of quotes to think about. First quote is, "The logic behind building a database is that it must be used to increase the lifetime value of customers and lead to long-term profits." The whole point behind building a database is to build stronger relationships, retain more customers, increase spending, and reduce costs in such a way that it increases the profitability of the firm. If that doesn't happen, then there's no reason to build a database. And then second, one thing that we're going to keep reminding you over and over again during the semester: if you don't have individual level purchase data, you don't have a database. What do you have? The answer, of course, is a list. Some prerequisites for database marketing. You have to have a high enough margin to finance the database. And that, of course, means that the idea is that if you got a low margin item, or not very many repeat purchases, or not very many customers, then there's probably no reason to build a giant database. Perhaps you can build a database with 3x5 note cards and a Rolodex. You have to have an easy way to track the identities of your customers and their purchases. So the problem, of course, is that if you have an online company, there's no issue. But if you have a cash-based brick and mortar business, it may be difficult to identify and track your customers' purchases. Third, the purchase situation has to be cyclical. That is, there has to be repeat purchase behavior. It doesn't have to necessarily be fast repeat purchase behavior, but it needs to be repeat purchase behavior. A good example of this is the difference between local casinos and casinos on the strip that cater to tourists. Someplace like the Boyd casinos or the Stations casinos is that their business is a repetitious local casino business. And so they get lots of people who gamble perhaps once a week, or at least once a month, or maybe even once a day to build a relatively high value. Where in a tourist-based casino business, maybe the casino visitor comes to Las Vegas and visits Las Vegas and gambles once a month, or once every 6 months, or once a year, or maybe even once every 2 years. And so obviously that is not as cyclical as local customers. And then finally, high involvement, important and interesting goods and services also helps be a prerequisite for database, but it certainly isn't as necessary as the other items here. All right, so let's look at the 10 big mistakes in database development. Mistake number 1, lack of a marketing strategy. A database marketing strategy must focus on increasing lifetime value of customers, and it has to be the cornerstone of why you developed the database in the first place. It's the idea of using the purchase data and other information that you've collected in your database to build a strategy to retain more customers, increase spending of those customers, and reduce the costs associated with those customers. When we think about marketing strategies and we think about databases, there are two sorts of people who are involved in managing the database. The first group are people who are the constructors. These are the persons responsible for building and maintaining the database. They're responsible for access, retrieval, data trapping, etc. In some cases, these are IS people. In some cases, they're IT people. And in some cases, they might even be computer science people. And then we have the creators. These are the individuals responsible for using the database to create profitable marketing strategies. Now, it helps if the creators know a little bit about database development and have some technical knowledge. But at the end of the day, the creators really have to not have an understanding of who their customers are, what they want, and how to satisfy those needs in a way that not only satisfies the customers, but also creates profitable strategies for the organization. Mistake number 2, focusing on price instead of building relationships and other loyalty building activities like services. I always have this little saying I use, and that is, however you get customers is the way that you will lose customers. So if you get customers by offering them an introductory deal or lower prices, you will lose those customers to someone else who offers even lower prices. So you should never focus on price when you are trying to attract customers. Instead, give them something extra rather than a discount. Think about things that you might give them that are soft benefits. That is, benefits that don't cost the firm very much money, or maybe not even any money. Competing on price makes the customer more price sensitive. Let me repeat that. If you compete on price, you will attract price sensitive customers, and they will become even more price sensitive over time. A discount always sends the wrong message to your customers. It says your product is overpriced, or your product is obsolete, or your product can't be sold for the price you're asking for it originally. Number 3, getting the economics wrong. First thing you need to understand is how much will the database cost? Okay, and then what is the effect of using the database on lifetime value? That is, how much more will each customer be worth over time? And you need to be realistic in the amount of retention and increased spending that you are likely to get from using this database strategy. First, you have to get the costs right. You have to know what the costs are. And then second, you need to be able to calculate conservative estimates of lifetime value changes. And then you need to understand your market. Do your customers even want to be bothered with a relationship marketing program? That is, do your customers even want a relationship? Remember I told you the story about NV Energy. I don't want a relationship with NV Energy. Why not? Well, there's nothing in it for me. If I build a relationship with NV Energy, I won't get my power cheaper. I won't get some extra power thrown in every month. I won't even get to be the first in line if I need service. The only thing that'll happen is that the organization will have information about me, but there's nothing in that relationship for me as a customer. Number 4, making the project too big and too long. My argument is when you develop a database marketing strategy and you implement a database, act fast and complete something. Show some type of result. And of course, the idea is if I can show small wins, it provides proof that I have the ability to create big wins. Okay. If you work slowly, you'll keep increasing costs with no return. All right. So other things that you need to do to make sure that this works is you have to understand that there might need to be a change in management and technology changes. Learning about your customers and doing something with this information while it is still accurate is critical. Start with your best database opportunity and get a small win. The idea is to start with a pilot study and show how it works and show that it does work. Then it's easier to expand that project and that database over time. It's faster and less expensive to outsource the database rather than building it in-house. And so you may want to start off with an outsourced database. Number 5, failure to track results. You need to have a useful source code system. That is, you need to be organized from the beginning. It helps to have experienced people involved. You need to be able to track offers and track increases in spending and retention in order to show that the database is having an impact on the bottom line. Number 6, building models instead of relationships. Modeling, cloning, predicting, and acquisition. You can spend a lifetime analyzing your customers. You can build models, you can append data, you can build more models, you can append more data, etc., etc. But at some point in time, for you to be a successful database marketer, you have to implement a program and track it. And you have to be able to demonstrate that the program that you have implemented is increasing profits more than the cost of the program. So instead of building models, ask yourself the question, what do I really need to know about my customers to build relationships with them and to impact both retention and spending? Number 7, failure to build the web into your database. And this sounds sort of funny now during the after the pandemic has hit us with COVID-19. But eventually the web will change the way we do business. And for now, recall that the key benefit of the web adds to the relationship building activities. The benefit of using the web is it creates an opportunity for two-way communication. The response control is set in the hands of the customers. That is, they can communicate with you when and how they want. It's the benefit of a web is it's open 24/7 and you're never put on hold. Also, it allows for the personalization of the communication relationship, and it also has the benefit of the database technology interfacing, which makes responses fast and accurate. Number 8, failure to change the organization and compensation. In many instances, we add a database, but we don't get buy-in from either the administration or the frontline employees. So when you decide to put in a database strategy, you need to change the way the organization is structured and the way that people are compensated. People have to be compensated when they do things that improves lifetime value of customers. That is, increases retention and increases spending. A firm must be organized to become customer-centric. We need to be able to understand that some customers are more profitable than others, and those customers merit more time and more resources. The focus must be on retention, upselling, cross-selling, and referrals. And when someone performs a CRM activity, they must be compensated. Number 9, lack of leadership. All changes in all organizations must have a champion. The same is certainly the case for database marketing. When someone implements a marketing database into their organization, many of the frontline employees feel like it is going to cost them their job. And they are much more likely to be very resistant to any change that they think in the long run won't benefit them. So you have to have leadership that can ensure that the frontline employees will be better off and after the database has been implemented and is successful. And of course, that person to do that has to have leadership skills, and he also has to have the ability to make the company think in terms of a long-term mentality. And then finally, number 10, one of the big mistakes that database marketers use when they first implement a database is that they find it very difficult to break the habit of treating all customers alike. For most companies, 80% of the sales and profits come from 20% of their customers. And the bottom 20% of your customer base is likely to be unprofitable, maybe even substantially unprofitable. Long-term customers, that is, the longer you have a customer, the more likely you are to be able to retain them again the following year. You're typically going to have higher spending rates, higher referral rates, and lower costs due to them understanding how the organization works and not ordering, for instance, the wrong products. Money spent on upselling, cross-selling, and retention of existing customers nearly always leads to a greater return than does spending the same amount of money on acquiring even more customers to fill that leaky bucket. One of the concepts of adding a database is to do what? Plug the holes in the leaky bucket. So how to do things right? Well, first, we always say to be good at marketing, you need to be able to put yourself in the customer's shoes. That is, you have to look at your business from the customer's point of view. It's always great to send the customers another email and to send them something that you think is building a relationship with them. But ask yourself, is this something that adds value to for the customer? Or is it simply noise? Second, you need to build a database team. Third, we've talked about this, you need to think small, you need to think fast, you need short-term, small wins to be able to demonstrate the power of the database. And then, as always, we say, keep your eye on the bottom line.